Can you give a brief overview of GASB 96 and talk about how entities can leverage their experience with 87 while applying 96? So, maybe for example, if a company has a software lease that has a hardware component, how would that be handled?
No, I think that's a great question. And I think as close as GASB 96 is to GASB 87, we should, as an organization, if you're thinking about starting a GASB 87 project, you want to consolidate 96 into it. In theory, 96 comes after GASB 87, and it has to do with what they call small subscription-based IT agreements, or SBITAs. And essentially, the accounting is essentially the same as GASB 87. They're requiring the organizations to capitalize these subscription agreements and to account for them over time. And so, I think the biggest challenge with GASB 96 is that as an organization, especially in governments, you'll find that the potential for these types of arrangements extend out further into the organization under GASB 96 than what you would traditionally find for just a lease agreement. So, any part of the organization that is going out and buying any specialized tools, IT agreements to access any web-based tools, those tools now are potentially applicable. So, when you're looking at GASB 87, if you identify potential web-based software agreements that are tied to any type of contracts, you should be getting to aggregate those and possibly conjoining the activities. So as you're going through the discovery of trying to find the GASB 87 leases, if you expand that to include an analysis or a questionnaire or survey on the SBITA side, you may be able to attack both discovery events at the same time. That being said, most organizations are challenged just with GASB 87. And if that is just your sole focus, then focus on that. But those organizations that have some flexibility there and perhaps maybe looking to leverage the short amount of time that they have between the two standards, they may combine those two.
No, that's a great piece of advice. Kind of that whole touch it once concept, right?
Exactly.
There's one question. I thought this was interesting. How much thought needs to go into capitalizing implementation costs for GASB 96 contracts? Is it just direct costs, or would it include salary expense for individuals responsible for implementation, et cetera? So how granular can you get with including things for implementation costs?
That's again, the standard doesn't say anything about how to go about doing this. And in reality, I think I go back to my old accounting 101 days where, you apply the software capitalization rules and you say, okay, when does it become a viable product? At that point, I stop capitalizing and start expensing. And so the problem here is there really isn't going to be a significant amount of, quote, software development in this process because these are SaaS-based products. It's mainly configuration. And the majority of your work is going to be done outside the platform, getting ready, right? Finding all those SBITAs, capturing them and pulling those all together. Is that considered a capitalization, a capitalizable cost from an IT implementation perspective? I think that might be a little aggressive. But I think when you get into the actual design and configuration of the platform, yes, there could be some that you could go to a granular level and capitalize using that just kind of back of a napkin. When does the software become viable? And that's kind of how I coach people. I think the answer is a little bit, unfortunately, it's a little vague in the standard, and it does allow for some interpretation.
So does GASB 96 include maintenance and or support subscription agreements?
I don't believe that it qualifies the type of agreement. As long as it's subscription-based IT agreement, that's greater than 12 months. And so again, what we're trying to do here is just capture the liability for those agreements that extend out over a year. And again, that would be my thought process there. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
Yeah, I mean, with 96, what you're looking for are those contracts where you're in a subscription, arrangement to use that other party's IT software, their software or their database abilities, that kind of thing. It's not so much the maintenance, like some of the services that a third party might provide for you, but are you really using their product for your use during a set period of time that you're paying for?
And I know we spent some time on materiality before, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we were kind of addressing 87 specifically at that time. So there was just a question on clarifying, you know, a materiality threshold for GASB 96. Is that, I guess, is that a thing? Do you find organizations setting a materiality threshold for GASB 96 was the question?
You should be if you're not, because materiality is a construct of all GASB. So, you know, in an effort to ease the administrative burden, they give you that materiality clause. And so if you're not calculating it, you should be. It shouldn't be done until you understand or ascertain the entire population of SBITAs that you have. And at that point, you should be able to drive the same type of quantitative analysis to determine a materiality that you drove on the leasing side. It should be pretty similar. So I would definitely include an evaluation for that, just if anything, to ease some of the administrative burden.